Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody. I officially call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. on the 7th day of October 2020. This is an electronic meeting being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001 due to our COVID-19 pandemic. All members of council are present. Thank you. And again, I'll ask that if you can keep your cameras on when you are here. If your cameras go off, you will potentially not be considered as quorum. No one is absent. We also have our senior staff here. I won't go through them. We invited public comments on this meeting through TML public comment. We did receive correspondence from the Port Curling Figure Skating Club. It was received Monday, October 5th, and it will be referred to as item 5A today. I also want to acknowledge that we are on lands traditionally occupied by Indigenous peoples. Indigenous peoples have cared for this territory for the benefit of future generations, and their stewardship throughout the ages is recognized. We know about motions and voting, all random populated, and then we'll signify with our hands in the air. We do have one supplemental agenda item, and that is pursuant to section 7.2. Lori Campbell, who's the past president of Port Curling Skating Club, will be joining us for some discussion on that, which is item 5A. Do we have any disclosures of interest, pecuniary interest, from anyone on council today? There is none, thank you. And we do have Lori here for as an invited delegation. Our main, we're just gonna let her in shortly. Our main purpose of business today is that of discussion from our arenas and the ability to keep our arenas open or open them back up, if you will, during our COVID-19 pandemic. For those people wondering, from a rollout perspective, back in September, we had asked for our community centers to come. We did not ask for our arenas to come, so it wasn't that we rejected them back in September. It just was not on our agenda to deal with. But because of the public outcry and discussions, thank you all for your comments. We have called this special meeting to deal with it today. So without any further ado, I think I'm going to turn this over to Director Becking and can introduce, we do have a staff report, and then we can go through some discussions. Director Becking, maybe some overview, and then I'll go to Lori, who would like to speak to us as well. So Director Becking, maybe some quick highlights. Everyone's seen the staff report? Ken?
Over here.
Okay. Ken, your microphone.
There we go. Thank you, Your Worship. As the mayor has mentioned, staff brought forward our report in September dealing with the community centers, and in that report there was a commitment to bring forward a separate report with respect to the arenas. As I'm sure all of you are aware, since that time we've had considerable comment from the public desiring that the arenas be reopened. By way of background, typically our arenas are opened starting in the 1st of September with Port Carling, and then later in October with the Bala Arena. Throughout the summer, we've been monitoring conditions, and we've seen a gradual reduction in the number of cases. However, public health have been warning us that there's a second wave coming, and I'm sure, as you're all aware, it has arrived. Planning has been underway throughout the summer months. I've indicated in my report those facilities in the immediate area that are open and what their status is. I would point out that there are a number of communities who are reevaluating their decisions in light of the recent increases in the number of cases, both in the local area as well as more broadly. Since the last time that council has addressed this issue, the medical officer of health and the province have both issued additional restrictions in response to the second wave. And they are suggesting that, all unnecessary gatherings should be restricted or postponed, as the case may be. But there has not been any outright bans imposed. At this point, as I see it, council has three options. Option one would be to delay further reopening until some point after the second wave has subsided. Based on current projections, you can expect that that won't occur until probably sometime into the first quarter of 2021 at the soonest. Your second option would be some kind of limited reopening. And if council wishes to proceed with this option or the third option, that there would be a need for us to put in place some protocols to ensure that we limit our exposure to liability and to manage the risks both to ourselves and to the users as well. In terms of demand, I can tell you that our requests thus far have been significantly reduced from previous years, and I think that can be directly attributed to the pandemic. In the case of the two arenas, the demand for time at Bala is extremely low, less than 7 hours per week. By contrast, we have had significant requests from both the local minor hockey as well as the figure skating club for time. In any requests that we have received, there has been an indication that people are prepared to go down to a single arena and are prepared to go to Port Carling if need be. And based on what requests we have had and our usual arrangements, we are confident that we can accommodate all of the demands at the Port Carling Arena. So if you choose to open the arenas or a arena, staff would recommend that it be the Port Carling Arena. Your third option is essentially going back to normal, and staff would not recommend the council take that option. In summary then, your worship, if council wishes to reopen arenas, staff are recommending that the second option be approved and that you endorse opening the Port Carling Arena. I can say to you that on the basis of a decision today, we can be in a position to open the facility for use effective the 17th, which is a week this coming Saturday, and we can proceed accordingly. As far as financial considerations are concerned, there obviously will be savings in terms of not opening up the Bala Arena to the tune of almost $30,000. That having been said, that will be offset by the losses in revenue that will be accrued. The use, based on what we know right now, is not going to be up to our usual annual standards. So revenues will be down compared to previous years at the Port Carling Arena, but staff are reasonably comfortable that we can maintain the one arena within the existing budget, approved budget guidelines. With that, your worship, I think I've given you the once over. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Thank you for that, Director Becking. I see Councillor Zavitz has his hand up. Councillor Zavitz, if it's pertaining to this report, I'm going to suggest right now that maybe, if it's okay, can we hold that question? I was going to get Laurie Campbell sort of to introduce, and then we can circle back and do a little bit more debate discussion, or do you want a quick question up front?
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll leave your hand up. Lori, if I can get you to unmute, we'll let you sort of circle back through the figure 8 configuration of ours. That's the best pun I could do on a Wednesday morning. I'm sorry.
It's a great effort, and I certainly appreciate it. Good morning, Mayor Harding, members of council and staff. My name is Lori Campbell. My address is 1071 Campbell's Road, Minette, P0B1G0, and I am the past president of the Port Carling Figure Skating Club. It's my pleasure to attend this meeting this morning, and on behalf of the Skating Club's executive, who represent approximately 75 local families, we'd like to thank Council for arranging today's special meeting, and we look forward to working with you and supporting your efforts to reopen the Port Carling Arena. Basically, I wanted to be available today to answer any questions that might arise with regard to the club's return to sport protocols and procedures. And I'd be happy to answer any questions should they arise. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that, Lori. And again, everyone saw the correspondence from the skating club as well. Councillor Zavitz, you have a question? Director Becking, I'm assuming.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So yes, to Director Becking, and I appreciate all the information in the presentation. Tough question here we have to answer. What assurance can we as a township provide to the public that those 7 hours per week that have been identified as the BALA requirement, if you will, can be accommodated in Port Carling, and in fact will be accommodated in Port Carling? Is there a mechanism in place, or can we put one in place so that those 7 hours, those representing humans, doesn't feel like they've been left out or off to the side? I mean, we acknowledge the need. They're just, I guess it's the purpose piece that we need to talk about. So if you could answer that, please.
Director Becking.
Your worship, the request for time will be met without question. I can assure council of that fact. There is a protocol in place that allows for the allocation of, or gives staff guidance, I guess is a better way of phrasing it, with respect to how to allocate time to users, and we will follow that protocol. Any sanctioned event will be given a priority.
Okay, thank you. I see Councillor Bridgman, then Councillor Kelly, and I thought I saw Councillor Edwards put your hand up and down, but I'll put you third in the queue. Nope, hand was not. So Councillor Bridgman.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Harding. And just a quick comment to the Figure Skating Club. I was so impressed with the protocols that you sent us and the work that's been done. And I'm very confident that you are going to look after your figure skaters well. So I just want to make sure that got back to your executive, Lori.
Lori?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, and through you to Mr. Becking. Good report. I like option 2, but I do have a couple of questions. The language in your option 2 seems to geared more towards hockey than figure skating, but I'm assuming it's inclusive of both. And the other thing is, I'm curious about who can actually book time. Do you have to be part of a sanctioned organization? Can I book an hour and bring friends? What's going to be the mechanism for getting on the ice? Period. What's the mechanism for getting on the ice? You have to prove some organization, some protocol like the Skate Canada protocol, or can anybody book it?
What are you, Director Becking?
Thank you, Your Worship. I suppose I wrote the report, Your Worship, with a bias to what I know, which is I know a heck of a lot more about hockey than I do about figure skating. That having been said, yes, I intend or intended that it should apply equally to both uses. With respect to the councillor's second question, the answer to his question is no. In order for us to proceed in a safe and orderly fashion and to maintain staff's ability to manage this situation, there will be no private use permitted. That's partially a management issue. It's also a risk management issue. The various organizations, associations, whatever you want to call them, have put in place, as you've seen, protocols and strategies to manage the risk and to share the risk. In the case of private individuals, there would be no one to occupy that role.
Okay, I think that satisfies. And I think Councillor Zavitz made the comment as well that you have to be human to book the ice. If I'm not mistaken, I heard those words out of his mouth. So that's good. Councillor Mazan.
Thank you, and through you, I concur. Great report, and I like the idea of option 2. And I'm not sure if this is a question for staff or maybe for Mrs. Campbell, for Lori. I thought I read somewhere about in the event that somebody were to get sick, that there would be a place, like a well-ventilated space for that person to go. And I just think that just needs some clarity, because I'm not as familiar with the facility itself other than going roller skating, but I don't know that there's a well-ventilated space. So I just want to make sure we have that protocol figured out.
Ken, I'm not sure if you want to handle that or.
I can do. Our facility is fairly Spartan, to be kind. They're the best well-ventilated spaces, quite frankly, the great outdoors. There will have to be protocols in place if there is a reported incident. That's why staff will be requiring things like attendance sheets and all of these types of strategies in order to be able to readily be able to transfer information directly to the health unit, so that we can, to the extent that we're humanly possible, control any outbreak that might occur. So, Lori, you may want to dive in on this, but that's kind of my take on it.
Lori, do you want to comment?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Harding. I believe that we would be seeking guidance from arena staff or support staff to hone in on exactly what that would mean. But I think in our minds, we can readily remove a skater or an individual very quickly to the outside through many areas in that building. So, we'll certainly look for guidance from staff.
Okay, thank you. Council, do we have anybody else who wants to chime in on this? Councillor Edwards, or sorry, Councillor Roberts, sorry. Looking at Alan's picture, but I see Gord waving.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I have 3 points or questions. First one to Director Becking. We indicated that there's going to be 7 hours of ice time. How easy will it be for staff to, if everything goes well, to increase those hours for the service clubs? That's my first question.
Councillor,
So let's say someone else wants 10.
No, let's try and put them all together, all 3, and then look in.
Okay.
So question 1, how do we manage the ice time? And can expand it? Thank you.
Second one is that I was in communications with the skating club yesterday, asking the questions, and they assured me they are going to appoint a club member who will manage the risk management that ensure that their users are compliant to all health and safety protocols. And this is really good and encouraging. I just want to make sure that somewhere in the document to the director that we indicate that as well, because the hockey organizations are not represented here. So there should be someone that is appointed by the service to make sure everyone complies, because people do become absent-minded. And finally, on page 23, and I'm going to just read it. Just give me a second here. It says parents will not be allowed in the buildings in order to keep numbers below the provincial maximums and control the potential for spread of the viruses. Given what I learned yesterday, that someone got around the mask rule by wearing a netted mask, I think that we need to be a little more specific there and make a statement that and change it away from parents, because it could be parents, guardians, whatever, and say who would be allowed in the arena. And I think it's coaches, trainers, and coordinators, or whatever was in there, but also volunteers. What I've found when investigating this, and I did look at 3 or 4 contracts from the Toronto area. When the children are young, they definitely need a volunteer in there to help tighten up skates. So I think that somehow should be brought into it. So basically, the changes to 23, making sure that the document covers the appointment of a service group risk manager to make sure compliance to all health policies, and how easily would it be to increase the time. So if it was going well, from 7 hours to 10 hours a week, etc. Thank you.
Okay, Director Becking.
I think, Your Worship, that there's enough flexibility in the schedule as we understand it currently that we can expand both in terms of individual ice times. You know, if a group, if there's no conflicts being created, maybe a group wants to have it for an hour and a half instead of an hour. I think we can likely accommodate that because there are enough time slots. And some groups will want prime time. So weekends and evenings compared to, you know, weekdays during the week. We'll try and manage that schedule as best we can, and we'll be fair and reasonable about it. If somebody wants to come in and they are a sanctioned group and they are from the district, from within the geographic confines of the district, then we will allow that to happen. With respect to the protocols, the councillor makes some good points. We have a far more extensive document that is being prepared, and actually you will see a version of it next week with respect to the community centers. A similar document is being put in place also for the arenas based on your decision today. It will address what the expectations of the organizers are from our perspective, and lay out in a fair amount of detail what our expectations are of the organizers, so that they then know what they have to do, and that assistance will be put in place as required. So in short, if council wishes to proceed with this on the basis of option 2, I can assure you that we will be able to make it work.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to Councillor Zavitz, and then Councillor Roberts is back in the queue. Glenn.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Again, to Mr. Becking. So if I could, I'm certainly in support of this, of course, and wholly and fully in support of opening Port Carling Arena. I wonder if we could speak just one more moment on the use of the word sanction, because I'm a little confused by that word. It would seem we need to define the word sanction, because in fact, it would seem that sanction means it's someone within that group, that's the user group, that will assume responsibility, the COVID responsibility, if you will, for that piece. So when the skating club uses it, we clearly talk about minor hockey, there'll be a dedicated, designated person, one would think, as that COVID, if I could call that person a COVID coordinator. So what I am concerned about is the because we're not talking about skating, we're not, skating clubs, we're not talking about minor hockey, we're talking about, let's say, someone who regularly rents the, say, Bala Ice. I'm going to stay on this for a bit. as long as that group dedicates I guess a designated COVID coordinator, are they not sanctioned? Would they not be sanctioned? Is not the word sanction, well, I see the mayor shaking his head, but the word sanction to me is either if they're sanctioned by the Ontario, Skating Association or the Ontario Minor Hockey versus picking Gary to be the COVID coordinator, and he receives the training that we insist on. I guess I'm not taking a position either way. I'm just asking the question at this point. Thank you.
Okay, I'll let Director Becking do that, but I do believe we're also following provincial guidelines that talk about what sanctioned events are, and that also would include insurance to indemnify the municipality. And I think he also said that, public groups with Joe who pick up hockey on Friday night doesn't count anymore. So, Ken?
Thank you, Your Worship. Essentially, you're correct. I use the word sanction, and by way of definition, a sanctioned group is a group that is a member of a provincial organization. It is not an individual. It is not a volunteer. It is a group that represents or is part of a provincially recognized organization. In writing the report, my intent, if it wasn't clear, is that we're not talking about allowing beer league hockey, as an example. We're not talking about free skates. We're not talking about a group of families who decide that Sunday afternoon is a good thing, skating is a good thing for a small group of families. We're talking about sanctioned, organized groups that are part of a provincial body devoted to that purpose.
Sorry, thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, I had three questions. I got two of them answered, so I just want to make sure the third one was understood. Is that on page 23? I would like that one sentence rejigged on your detailed report for what's going to happen to say specifically who can come in the arena. There's more than parents. There's grandmothers who could come in. The way it's written, grandfathers. So just tighten it up a bit is all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you.
My apologies, Your Worship. Yes, we will tighten up that language.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any other further comments? I know Councillor Mazan had wanted to say she's in support, but we appreciate that. Councillor Mazan.
Yes, this is through you. You guys kept muting me, which I was taking as a as a hint. I just wanted to follow up on my comment to say I'm supportive of option 2. I believe that the groups, the sanctioned groups, have done a good job demonstrating how they would manage this, and like to be able to empower our staff to manage through this very fluid situation. So thank you. Thanks for letting me speak again.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've pretty much got consensus here. I'm going to assume we're going to head down option 2. So I have a resolution moved by Councillor Bridgman, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Whereas Council approves a reopening framework that contained guiding principles to ensure health and safety of the community. And whereas there is an interest within the community to open township arenas for limited use for organized recreation activities, now therefore be it resolved that Council approves the reopening of the Port Carling Arena on or about October 17th, 2020 for the 2020-21 ice season, based on the provisions laid out in the October 7th, 2020 staff report entitled Reopening of Arenas for 2020-21 season, and subject to any additional requirements imposed by the province of Ontario or the medical officer of health. Any further comments from anybody? I'll call the question. All those in favor? And I see Councillor Nishikawa's hands. There we go. Madam Clerk, I believe that is carried. Thank you unanimously. And Lori, thank you. And to the public and those people, appreciate community support and where everybody wanted to go. And I understand it was no direct intent of staff and or council to ignore people. It was just in a process getting forward. There's so many hours and so many reports to write, and understand that everybody on this council certainly, as you heard the discussion today, wants to make sure the public are safe, and more importantly also, or equally importantly, as our staff who will be cleaning the facilities. So you good?
Through you, Chair, I greatly appreciate the efforts of council and your willingness to support what we think is a very important opportunity for our young folks in our community. So we are greatly appreciative and look forward to working directly with Mr. Becking and others to ensure that we follow all proper protocols. Thank you very much for the time.
Okay, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. Council, our next item of business is that of closed session. I'm going to bring us into closed, but then we're going to take 10 minutes and come back at 20 to 10. We'll kick out those people out of the meeting who shouldn't be here. So I have a resolution moved by Councillor Hayes, second by Councillor Jaglowitz. Be it resolved that closed session convene at 9:30 a.m. for litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, one matter pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001. All those in favor? Okay, we are carried. We are in closed, and everybody take 9 minutes. We'll see you all back on at 20 to 10.